You're muted.
What pictures are fake?
Or the videos are fake. Those
Oh, of
videos,
Coburger?
yeah.
Well, I hate to tell the thumbnail that you saw, but Jumpsuit Pablo, which has 400 and something thousand followers, he says they real.
Well, this convict says they're fake.
I really don't. Okay, well, I don't know Jumpsuit Pablo personally, but there's a reason he's got almost 500,000 subs.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, well, you can't always control people's thoughts.
No, you cannot. You cannot. Isn't that funny, Nina?
Isn't it though? And you know what? I'm free to say that, and I'm so thankful for that. I mean, I'm glad that I don't try to control people and what they think and what they feel. That they can actually come in no matter what side of the fence they're on. If they're on the fence, if they don't even know there's a fence.
Yeah. It's a little more exciting when you say stuff isn't real, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure that blood on the wall ain't real either.
Well, man.
Hey, Chloe. Hey, Sirius. Hey, Aquarius. Aquarius, where have you been? I've been missing you. And
Aquarius went to
Wandy.
Aquarius went to a concert the other night. She finally was good to herself.
Well, it's about damn time in Texas. I bet Texas ain't behaving.
I bet he ain't. Where is he?
He's up there in the top.
No.
We tracked down the girl that posted them. Uh-oh, did she get fired?
And somebody said it was a security guard.
Oh, I'm sure it was because on the second one, you can see where they're recording it off of the like the main screen, with the grids. You can
Yeah.
tell that they just like singled out his grid.
Well,
And oh, Jumpsuit Pablo, he's like, you know what? I'm sure that the person didn't mean for it to happen. I'm sure it's some guy that's like, oh, my girlfriend is into true crime. Yeah, oh, guess what, honey? Look how important I am. And then that bitch sent it out to everybody.
do you think that's how it happened?
Well, I mean, think about it. That would be something like somebody would do to try to impress a girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
And then the girlfriend or boyfriend would be like, look what I got. And then it goes viral.
Yeah, Chloe says the girl that posted them didn't work there.
Right.
Friend.
See, exactly. He's
Wow,
probably like,
what a
"Woo! I'll get me a date this Friday night somehow."
that's what I was just thinking. He's like, wow, I'm gonna get something tonight.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like, "Yeah, you're terminated." He's like, "Well, I won't be able to afford that date after all."
I don't know how. Hold on a second, Nina. I spilled some water. Hold on. I don't know how they could really prove that it was him, but go go ahead and talk on that for a second. I
Well,
spilled.
I mean, if you think about it, there's not but so many people that's going to be working on that shift at that time that can get into that control room. Process of elimination is not hard.
Okay, they're fake. No,
Yeah, they're fake. Psych! I didn't really want to date with you, bitch.
they're fake. No, anyway, thank y'all so much for coming back. I know I said 8 o'clock Central.
You told me 9.
I did.
Yeah,
Oh, well, shit. Then I'm right on time. My
Yeah,
bad.
that's the reason I didn't start looking for you until about 8:55.
My bad. See, I don't know. You get
No,
off.
you're good. Hey,
You get
look,
off. You get off early, and
I
it
tell
throws.
people midnight. I tell people midnight sometimes and show up at 2 o'clock the next morning.
Damn. You get
And
off
I don't
early.
mean 2 hours later the next morning. I mean 26 hours later.
You get off early, and it throws off your whole damn day. Oh man.
See, Rondi said, I told you 12.
Why y'all talking 1,000 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour? Well, we're sorry, Mister Man.
Let me slow it down for you.
Well, let's start the video. These folk came for this, and then we can talk.
Oh, hell's bells. Did you get all my pictures and videos?
Yes, I did. I will try to send those to myself and play those as well.
All right, well, clean your water up.
No, I already did that. Here we go. If I can quit yawning. Shit.
Since blood evidence associated with a crime can provide information that may solve the case, it is essential to correctly document, collect, and preserve this type of evidence. Improperly handled blood evidence can weaken or destroy a potential source of facts in a case. Properly collected and preserved blood evidence can establish a strong link between an individual and a criminal act. Blood evidence or the lack of blood evidence can also be used to bolster or contradict a witness statement or any statements that the suspect may make. Blood evidence can also point the investigator in the direction he or she needs to go to solve the case. If blood evidence is documented, collected, and stored suitably, it can be presented to a judge or jury several
Hey,
years
you might want to ask chat, but it's like really choppy for me, but ask
blood
chat.
evidence is the ability to absolutely eliminate a person as a potential suspect in a crime. Communication is the key to effectively processing blood.
Do what?
I said, you may want to ask chat how that sounds because for me, it's sort of choppy and you can't really understand it. So you might want to ask your chat.
Oh, Jesus.
No, Jesus will not answer. Chat will.
Hold on. Let me see.
Evidence. Clear and open communication must exist between a crime scene's first responding officer, the case detective, the crime scene investigator, the forensic scientist analyzing the evidence, and the assistant district attorney handling the case.
Well, we're gonna have to deal with that because that's the way. That's as clear as I can get it. I mean,
Okay, well, I just wanted to let you know I can deal. I
okay,
can hang with it. I can hang.
okay. Here we go.
Prime importance is the communication between the crime scene investigator and the forensic scientist. A crime scene investigator should know the crime lab's capabilities, the methods of blood collection and preservation preferred by the crime lab, the investigative information relevant to the forensic scientist, and the type of reference samples required by the crime lab. This information may change periodically as technology changes, lab policies change, lab personnel change, or lab
No sound now.
The crime scene investigator should meet regularly with his or her crime lab's forensic scientist to determine the most suitable method for collecting and preserving blood evidence.
Do what?
Sorry,
Can
there
you?
wasn't any sound.
All I did was mute myself. Did it go off when I muted
When
myself?
I guess when you muted, you took the sound with you.
Oh my God. Okay, so basically what it's saying is, when the forensic people go in to look at a crime scene, they're investigating certain levels of the blood and they're looking for different variations. So hopefully it plays okay. If not, I'm going to Canva and we're going to watch it from there.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me pull that up.
All right, Chad, y'all get my back and let him know about sounds. I'm not the tattletale.
Oh my gosh. Y'all drive me nuts with that. I can't hear it. I can't see it. Come on. I
Well,
can
it's a
only
drive-through. We pay good money for this.
I
I mean,
can
a
only
drive-in.
control. I can only control so much of this. Let's see if this helps. Playing it directly from the thing. Okay, can y'all see that? Okay, now there's no sound. And then there we go.
Since blood evidence associated with a crime can provide information that may solve the case, it is essential to correctly document, collect, and preserve this type of evidence. Improperly handled blood evidence can weaken or destroy a potential source of facts in a case. Properly collected and preserved blood evidence can establish a strong link between an individual and a criminal act. Blood evidence or the lack of blood evidence can also be used to bolster or contradict a witness statement or any statements that the suspect may make. Blood evidence can also point the investigator in the direction he or she needs to go to solve the case. If blood evidence is documented, collected, and stored suitably, it can be presented to a judge or jury several years from the time of the criminal act. Perhaps the most powerful application of blood evidence is the ability to absolutely eliminate a person as a potential suspect in a crime. Communication is the key to effectively processing blood evidence. Clear and open communication must exist between a crime scene's first responding officer, the case detective, the crime scene investigator, the forensic scientist analyzing the evidence, and the assistant district attorney handling the case. Of prime importance is the communication between the crime scene investigator and the forensic scientist. A crime scene investigator should know the crime lab's capabilities, the methods of blood collection and preservation preferred by the crime lab, the investigative information relevant to the forensic scientist, and the type of reference samples required by the crime lab.
Okay, as y'all can see that there is obviously this is Xana's room and this is Ethan's bed. So as y'all can see that there is
That's actually Maddie's bed.
what?
That's Maddie's.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Okay, well explain it to me then.
I'm just telling you, it's Maddie's bed.
Explain it. I mean, I don't.
No, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. I was just saying it's Maddie's because, like, we're the big red and then the going across underneath the macrame and stuff like that. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
Maddie's room.
Okay. So where is this? Like, is this the corner? Is this
That's the
where?
corner where Kaylee would have been.
Okay. So that's where all that blood is, right there.
Yes, and
Okay.
that may be Kaylee.
Okay. My bad. All right. Well, y'all can tell that whenever they're doing blood sample stuff, this is the worst live ever so far. Um, as they're doing blood sample explanations and gathering the blood for evidence to determine whether a person is the suspect or not, or to deem them not culpable, then this individual describing it.
This information may change periodically as technology changes, lab policies change, lab personnel change, or lab administrations change. The preferences of forensic scientists also vary from lab to lab. A good method of blood evidence collection for one forensic scientist may not be a good method for another forensic scientist. The crime scene investigator should meet regularly with his or her crime lab's forensic scientists to determine the most suitable manner for collecting and preserving blood evidence. This ensures that the evidence is collected efficiently and effectively. The technological state of blood evidence analysis has rapidly advanced in the last 20 years. In the early 70s, most crime labs relied upon the ABO blood grouping system to characterize blood stains. This meant that the blood could have come from 4 to 49% of the population. In the 1990s,
Most crime labs are relying on DNA analysis to characterize bloodstains. A blood source can now be statistically narrowed down to one person out of several million or even several billion. 1. A crime scene investigator should know which method or methods of bloodstain analysis are available from his or her crime lab, the FBI lab, and private labs. Conventional serological analysis. Analysis of the proteins, enzymes, and antigens present in the blood. These substances are more susceptible to degradation than DNA, and this type of testing usually requires a large sample, quarter size, in good condition for optimal results. This type of testing is rarely statistically individualizing. Restriction fragment length polymorphism, RFLP, DNA analysis. Direct analysis of certain DNA sequences present in the white blood cells. DNA is much less susceptible to degradation than proteins, enzymes, and antigens. RFLP DNA testing is commonly statistically individualizing, 1 out of several million or several billion, and it has withstood rigorous court challenges on its validity. This method also usually requires a large sample size to obtain significant results. Polymerase chain reaction, PCR DNA analysis. Analysis of certain DNA sequences that have been copied multiple times to a detectable level. PCR-based testing works well on degraded samples and small samples, pinhead size. Currently, it is not as statistically individualizing as RFLP analysis. However, more DNA sequences for PCR analysis are being discovered, and in the near future, it will be as statistically individualizing as RFLP. PCR-based technologies have also withstood rigorous court challenges on its validity. Recently, there has been some concern over the possibility of incidental contamination giving false results in PCR tests. At least one study has shown that if PCR protocols are followed, it is not likely that incidental contamination will give false results. The only way that false results were induced was by direct cross-contamination of wet samples. 2.
Today, we're going to be using defibrinated sheep's blood. We have taken the fibrin out of this blood. Fibrin is a protein that's in our plasma that causes our blood to clot. So if we use regular whole blood that had the fibrin in it, we'd have a clotted mess inside this bottle. Bloodstain pattern analysts correlate the appearance of these bloodstain patterns at a crime scene to a mechanism by which they were created. It isn't a crystal ball. It isn't like the way TV presents it, where a crime scene investigator walks into a scene and could tell you every single action that happened inside that crime scene from beginning to end. Analysts can correlate the static bloodstains at a crime scene with dynamic forces that create them. So we look at is specific stain patterns, and we could figure out how they possibly were created. And then with that, we could show a small window of time, not the whole crime, but that this type of force could have created this sort of pattern. So passive patterns are patterns that are created without any sort of outside external force other than gravity or contact. So we're going to first start off with dropping blood at 90 degrees to see what we get. So I'm going to take a pipette and a small amount of blood and hold it directly above and drop it. So when our sphere of blood strikes the surface at 90 degrees, we have a very even, round circle.
So you said when arterial blood drops at 90 degrees, you have a perfect circle. So what we saw in the crime scene photos, and you're going to see the crime scene photos as this goes along. So it's going to show you different photos. And there's some photos in here that you probably seen that I didn't see until today. And I thought they were quite interesting. There's actually a photo in there that I don't know what place in the residence it's from. Actually, there's 2 photos in there. But like I said, y'all probably seen the photos, and you probably know exactly where they're at. So he's also going to tell you about the differences between where the droplets of the blood land versus, like right there, they're on glass. And he's going to show the difference between landing on the glass surface that he's using right now versus the wood surface that he's going to be showing as well. Have you seen this, Nina?
Yes, I actually did my homework.
Yeah. So what do you think about this?
I think it is very interesting, and I think it is very well put together.
I wish I didn't have to show it in the way where I put it together, but You get what you get when you wake up late.
Oh,
Consequences, right?
you're doing great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's some more of this. Let's go.
At a crime scene. But also what affects the way our blood stain looks is the surface itself. We have plexiglass, and we notice that the edge characteristics of our blood stain are very even.
Presently, the courts do not recognize blood evidence as evidence that can be absolutely linked to an individual, such as fingerprints, bite marks, broken fingernails, and handwriting. If DNA analysis is utilized, then blood evidence falls into the category of evidence that can be linked to an individual with a high degree of probability. Originally, RFLP DNA analysis was given the misnomer DNA fingerprinting. The courts have since ruled that a DNA result can only be given in statistical terms. A forensic scientist cannot testify that a bloodstain came from a specific individual. He or she can testify that, based on population studies, only one person in several million or billion has a particular DNA profile. He or she can then testify if the suspect or a victim.
So if we're going with that theory, then what I said earlier is probably not true, right, Nina?
What'd you say earlier?
Oh, about the blood running down the side of the house. You
Oh,
just said that you can't tell the blood as
right,
linked to the person. So
right,
maybe that either there was more kind of telltale signs such as DNA or something like that, but the blood cannot link
right.
itself to a person.
That was sort of kind of confusing, I have to say. Because I was like, wait a minute, DNA is DNA.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Has that DNA profile. Before a crime scene investigator begins documenting and collecting blood evidence, he or she must recognize the value of this evidence and how it fits in the overall events associated with the crime. The most common applications of blood evidence are finding blood with the victim's genetic markers, ABO blood type, DNA profile, etc., on the suspect, on something in the suspect's possession, or something associated with the suspect, such as the suspect's fingerprints. Finding blood with the suspect's genetic markers on the victim, on something in the victim's possession, or something associated with the victim. Investigative information determined from blood spatter and/or blood location. Generally, blood evidence is usually more informative in cases where a suspect and victim are in contact or close proximity. For example, if a suspect stabs or beats a victim, there could be an exchange of blood between the victim and the suspect. If a suspect shoots a victim from across a room, it is less likely that an exchange of blood will occur. Occasionally, investigators blindly collect blood samples from a scene without any thought about the facts they are trying to establish. An example is a crime scene consisting of the body of a shooting victim found alone in his residence.
See, what he said right there is like rarely do people collect blood trying to find out who the perpetrator is. Is that not what he just said?
That is exactly what he just said. And I think that that was very interesting because he was talking about really all this that we're going to see doesn't mean anything if you don't have a suspect to put it with.
Right, right. So at that point, for people to be saying that there was no evidence or anything like that, well, they weren't giving us evidence because they didn't have a suspect, right? It kind
Right.
of makes sense as to what this guy is saying.
Some investigators will collect several blood samples from around the body. This is unnecessary, since it will only establish that the victim bled at the scene of the crime. This fact is already proven by the presence of the body. However, one sample of pooled blood next to the body can be collected to confirm the results obtained from the victim's reference blood sample. The crime scene investigator must make an effort to collect the evidence that is going to provide the most useful information in establishing the facts about a crime scene. The investigator must balance this with the philosophy of too much evidence collected is better than not enough evidence collected. The investigator should concentrate on collecting representative samples of the peripheral bloodstains, such as the bloodstains that are away from the body and the main area of action. or blood spatter patterns that differ from the majority of the blood spatter patterns. These bloodstains may provide useful investigative information. The investigator should also search for blood trails leading away from the scene. These trails could have originated from a wounded suspect. If a suspect is established in a case, then he or she should be examined for wounds. The suspect's wounds should be documented and photographed. This is
Unless, excuse me, unless this picture can be magnified or whatever, at this point, I don't see any trails, but doesn't mean that there isn't any. If you're just looking at this and, like that other video that I was showing you would show it a lot bigger, um, you could see that it just pulled droplets of blood as if someone was either standing there or they had injured themselves. And what we have heard, excuse me, is that Koberger supposedly cut his ring finger. So if he didn't know he was bleeding, I mean, or if he did and didn't care, you know, that could explain these blood droplets. So Nina, where's this picture at? What's this picture from? What room?
That one right there is going to be Xana's room because of the black bag right there. Then the other one that's just like that is going to be Maddie's room because that's where the Doc Martens are.
Okay. See, I was having trouble finding the blood droplets in that picture until you sent it to me
Right.
and circled it, because it's hard to see.
Yeah. But did you notice that there's 4 on the left of both of them? That's in like a curvature.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the individual was standing at the foot of the bed watching, like just
Yes.
observing.
That's what creeped me out. It was like right inside the door of both the bedrooms are the exact blood droppings, and it's like he stood there just looking at what he had done or watching them take their last breath.
Right, right. So, I mean, this is quite interesting. I know it's very analytical, but it's interesting to understand it and actually see the crime photos as he's talking about it. So, you're going to see another visual example here in a minute because I know a lot of people don't like to sit and hear a lecture type situation, but this is really good information.
additional useful evidence if blood with the suspect's genetic markers is found in an incriminating location. Because blood analysis is a comparison analysis, comparison of the victim's blood and the suspect's blood to blood found at the crime scene, reference blood samples are needed from the victim and suspect. A comparison must be made between the genetic markers in the victim's blood and the suspect's blood. The blood samples from the crime scene can then be analyzed for those genetic markers that are different in the suspect and victim. This is especially true in conventional serology analysis. Requests are made occasionally to do an ABO blood type determination of blood on a suspect's.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. if they if he did cut himself and that was his blood, and there's a mixture of the victim blood also in there, how they found that correlation would have been the DNA or the markers in the blood, not the blood itself. Is that what he's saying?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's called, oh my gosh. I forgot what it's called, but it's the separating of it. And that's one of the things that Cece Moore talks about in some of the interviews that she does is that one of the things that could have come through after the gag order was the separating of all the blood.
Right.
And that, they could have got the results back after the gag order was in place, and that's the reason it was never talked about.
It's kind of like when to make a murder case that we were watching that night, where she was saying that they put a coagulant or anticoagulant in the blood when they find blood at at a crime scene to keep it from clotting.
Yes,
So this would have been like they at the crime scene they gather the blood and then they put it in a tube to before they can kind of break it down and everything like that so they can see exactly what kind of markers there is in the blood
right,
to try to see who the blood belongs to because the blood will not tell you by itself whose blood it is, but you can see markers and DNA and all this other stuff in the blood once it's separated that can give you the owner of the blood, so to speak. So, do you think that they were able to find more DNA other than the DNA on the
I
night
think
sheet?
they actually found a fingerprint of his.
Yeah.
And the only reason that I think that is because in one of the documents, this was before he pled or anything, it
Mm-hmm.
talks about a fingerprint expert. And it's like, you don't need a fingerprint expert if the fingerprints you found was the victims or Dylan or Bethany's.
Right.
So why would you have a fingerprint expert?
Right. And also, there's many, many people that believe that Dylan had a part in this. We haven't
They're
heard,
such idiots.
no, but listen, we have not heard of one. We have not seen any pictures that they have found blood in her room whatsoever. Does she have any cuts on her hand? Does she have any bruises? Did you know what I mean? They would have photographed and examined her right off the bat. Just like
Right,
you know what I mean, if they would have thought she was a suspect. Like I always say, it's about eliminating the person rather than making the person the suspect. I don't
right.
know where people get that mentality that when they're investigating a crime, they're trying to make people suspects. It's not that. They're eliminating people. Let's
But I
continue.
think it's easier. I think it's easier for people to think that they're like coming after one person instead of trying to eliminate them. I think
Right,
it's easier for people to think the bad.
right. I mean, I believe even with Koberger, I believe that at one point they were probably trying to eliminate him from being the suspect
Right,
until eventually you cannot look away anymore. I mean, when so many things add up, just like with Stephen McDaniel, they tried to eliminate him until things started going to the point where you can't look away from this. They're just too much coincidences, and nobody is that has that much bad luck. And we've always talked about that, you
right.
know.
Flows to a known blood sample from a victim. This type of analysis is useless without a known blood sample from the suspect. If both parties have the same ABO blood type, then part of the sample has been wasted, and no real information of value is produced. If reference samples of blood from both parties are provided, then it can be determined if they have the same ABO blood type. If they do, then further analysis of the reference blood samples may show that the two parties have different PGM types. The unknown stain could then be analyzed for the genetic marker PGM. This analysis may then show the possible origin of the stain.
Let's try tile, which has a little bit of texture to it. One drop of blood, straight down onto a different surface now. You can see a little bit of scalloping around the edges there. That's because of the surface texture. So the scalloping is just the different ways that we describe the edge characteristics of blood stains. So it could be smooth, uniform, it could be scalloped, or it could be spiny. So now we change the surface to a rougher surface, wood. So we can see a vast difference from where we started, where we had smooth edge characteristics. Now we have this spinier pattern because that blood drop is being disrupted by the surface itself. And we can also see we have some satellite stains. Satellite stains are stains that come off a parent stain. So this main stain here is my parent stain. In this case, because of the disruption, they are being forced out from the center of it. We also see satellite spatter when blood is being dripped into blood. Typically at a crime scene, especially with stabbings, we want to look for these drip patterns. It could be that the suspect accidentally cuts themselves and they're moving around a crime scene and fleeing the crime scene, and they could leave blood trails that we could follow. Next, we're going to be looking at contact transfer stains. A transfer pattern is a passive pattern where we have a bloody surface coming in contact with another surface. And then sometimes we could actually figure out what made that transfer, whether it was a hand or a weapon or someone's clothing. I mean, that's the best type of evidence that we could have at a crime scene. So we have the victim's blood and we have the suspect's impression. There's very few explanations of how that happens. So we're going to start off with a shoe wear impression in blood. So this could be our victim walking through blood, creating patterns in our crime scene, or this could be the suspect's shoe wear impression. We're going to coat the bottom of the shoe and we're going to transfer the pattern of the bottom of the shoe to our clean surface. So I have my shoe wear that's completely coated in blood, and then inside that crime scene, we have a transfer of that pattern. And we'll notice is that that pattern gets lighter and lighter as we move along. What we don't see with our naked eye, we could find later on with chemicals like luminol or blue star. So we could see a continuation of that pattern as someone walks away from a crime scene. Sometimes we see transfer patterns in textiles. So next we're going to take some blood, saturate a portion of our jeans with it, and we're going to transfer that onto our surface. So sometimes in real crime scenes, these get misinterpreted as the lines of minutia in your fingerprints or palm print. What we would see is that unlike fingerprints, they're just straight lines. Either way, we would document this and collect it and send to the lab, and then under magnification, analyze it.
Suitable reference samples. A suitable reference sample is collected directly from a person into a tube or vacutainer from all of the involved subjects must be sent to the crime lab. An unsuitable...
Okay, so, excuse me. To give reference to what we're looking at, I'm going to take a shot at this. I could be wrong here. This is Xana's room. And this
Yep.
is the bedding next to her bed where Ethan, which if you look at how the bed is still kind of
Yes.
down,
Yes.
that means that there's somebody still in the bed.
And it's a
This,
pretty heavy somebody.
yes, because you look at this indention right here, it looks like there's, this photograph was taken with somebody still in the bed. And as you can
Yes.
tell, the blood has puddled right here. There's blood on the nightstand. It looks like what he just said. It looks like somebody wiped or brushed up against this.
Yes.
And there's obviously the puddling of the blood right here at the top. So this could have been the individual standing in this area or possibly even kneeling. I don't know. I'm saying that this is what I believe, okay, Nina, and I could be wrong here, but I believe that this individual, Koberger, wanted to get as close to his victims as possible. I don't
Yes.
believe that he leaned over. How
No.
much does that make sense that he would lean over to slice his throat? He would have kneeled on that bed and got as close to Ethan, and I'm not trying to be morbid here, but he would have sliced him from as close proximity as he possibly could because this is that type of crime. It is a
Yeah, and
very
it's that
personal
dominance.
crime. Yes, it is a very personal crime. Very, um,
See, I think he was in the bed. I think he jumped on top of the two girls. If Kaylee was in the bed, okay, like everybody says that she was, if they were both in the bed, I think that he just jumped right on top of them, straddling them both, and started going at it.
and I mean, people say, well, how come there wasn't any more screams? Can and I'm referencing back to Danny Rowling here. He put gray tape over their mouths. Well, in this case, we have no evidence that there was any kind of tape over their mouth or any kind of binding. So, what to
Well,
say?
I
He
mean, the
didn't
first
put.
thing that happened, I mean, both their lungs, both their left lungs were sliced. So if that's one of the first blows that you go to, that's going to cause them not to be able to get the breath out to scream.
But also, if you have your left hand over her mouth, well, I don't know if he was left-handed or right-handed, but he was right-handed, I think
Yes,
we discussed. Well, if he's right-handed, then he could have his left hand plus his body weight on her mouth as he's stabbing, as he's punching. So there's not going to be much screaming. You might hear the residual thumping sound of somebody getting hit. And I mean, if you've ever been in a fight or you've ever watched somebody get in a fight and there's some solid blows, those blows are going to make some sounds. They're not going to be muffled. You know what I mean?
right. Now, see,
I don't-
Sirius says that she's envisioned him leaning over and doing it. Now, see, I'm one that does not believe that Kaylee was in the bed. So
Yeah.
I believe that he went over in between the bed and the closet and took care of Maddie by doing it from the side of the bed because she was on that side of the bed.
Right. And it makes sense that if he had the sheath in his left hand, you would need to release the sheath in order to use your left hand to either hold her, pull her towards you, or to muffle her. You get
Right,
what I'm saying?
right.
And, and once again, you're going to hear me say at the end of the video, or you're going to hear the AI say it. I'm in no way trying to show disrespect to the families or to the victims by showing this whatsoever. I'm using this as an example to give people the clarification because for some reason they don't believe that this is blood. They believe that everything in this is staged and there's no way that this could have happened the way it happened.
They either
And
think
I'm
it's
not,
not blood or there's not enough blood.
yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm not trying to show they're right or wrong or anything like that. I'm merely just showing this for educational purposes.
Reference
Well,
sample
it's
is
not
bloody
like you're the
clothing
only
or
one
some
that has
other
shown
bloody
it.
item. These are
Right.
unsuitable because the histories of these bloodstained items are usually questionable, and there may be factors present on the items that will give misleading results. The sample must be collected in the proper vacutainer. The investigator should check with the lab he or she is using to determine the analyst's preferences on reference sample collection tubes. This is a summary of the forensic uses of vacutainers. Yellow top vacutainers contain acid citrate and dextrose solution, useful for conventional serological testing and DNA testing, author's personal preference. Purple top vacutainers contain EDTA, useful for DNA testing, may inhibit certain conventional serological tests. 3. Red top vacutainers, no additives.
Okay, so he's going over, when you get your blood drawn, you see the purple cap, the red cap. That's what they have certain additives in there that they either don't allow the blood to clot or they help the blood looking for specifics testers or markers in there. That's why when you get blood drawn that you can tell how your
Right,
body is functioning.
right.
Here's another photo, and I've heard many times that this is not the Jack in the Box bag. This is a
Taco Bell.
design. This is a design on the bag. This isn't blood. And this is not blood on the Coors Light box. That's not a trail of blood right here. Then what the hell happened in that room? That's what I want to know.
Who told you that wasn't blood?
I've heard that. I've heard
Really?
that. Yeah.
Now, see, I thought that it was a Taco Bell box mixed, with blood on it. A Taco Bell bag. Because you know how
Yeah.
Taco Bell has the purple?
Yeah. But
So I
Jack
thought
in
that
the
it was a
Box,
Taco Bell bag with blood mixed on it.
yeah, Jack in the Box has a little bit of purple as well, but not much. I mean, um it's very definitive, you know what I mean?
Right. I don't know. I think I might have to. I don't know. I might would have to debate that because that looks like an awful lot like blood,
I believe that it is blood because of the way that it's spattered on there. It's kind of like
especially on the Coors.
seeping into the box. And see, this is like what he just showed in that video
Right.
about somebody rubbing against the box and getting blood on it. That doesn't look like a thumbprint or anything like that. It looks like the box was either kicked out of the way, but this would entail somebody leaned over and bled directly on this bag, based on what he was saying a while ago. Does that sound
Well, I mean,
plausible?
the thing about it is when you look at some of this stuff, you can notice, and again, this is not being Mormon, morbid or anything like that. But if you think about the way that Xana was fighting, and y'all, let me tell you, I have been in some fights, okay? You grab for anything. And
Yeah.
especially in something like she was in, if she could have got a hold of a 12 pack of beer and hit him in the head, I'm sure she was grabbing for anything.
And those rooms were very tiny.
Right.
Yeah.
Useful for conventional serological tests, less useful for DNA testing, can be used for pregnancy and HIV testing. 4. If a yellow top is not available, then the author prefers receiving red top and purple top vacutainers from a subject. Gray top vacutainers contain sodium fluoride and sometimes EDTA. Useful for toxicological testing, not suitable for conventional serological analysis. 5. And may not be suitable for DNA analysis. If the investigator is collecting blood from an autopsy, then one of each type of vacutainer should be collected from the victim. This will ensure that any necessary forensic testing can be performed. These vacutainers should be stored in a refrigerator, not frozen, at about 4 degrees centigrade until they are transported to the crime lab. In recent years, blood visualization enhancing chemicals have regained popularity with crime scene investigators. The chemical of choice is usually luminol. Luminol is a chemical that, when applied to bloodstains, even very dilute bloodstains, will cause the bloodstains to glow in the dark.
And that's interesting as well. This is the blood that we can see. The reason people say that there's not a lot of blood is because there's a lot of blood that you can't see.
Oh
You
yeah,
make that
I mean, they
you,
talk about the
hold on,
blood
hold on,
spatter
hold
being
on,
on the
hold,
ceiling.
hold on and hold on. You make that room dark. You turn on the light, not the black light. It's
Right,
a specialized light because we talked about that as well in another live. A black light cannot illuminate blood.
right,
So you spray the luminol. There's a special light. It's like a black light. It looks like a black light, but it's not a black light. It illuminates where the spatter is, and think of how that room lit up. Because you had a very good presentation about those crime scene photos that you showed where you couldn't see any blood in that bathroom.
right.
You turned the light off and you sprayed the luminol and you put the black light. I'm going to say black light. I know it's not a black light, but that's the reference that I'm going to give it. So
Yeah,
turn
I
on
think
the
it's
black
called an
light.
alternative source or something.
Yeah. So you're going to be able to see all the blood present, not blood, but it's going to be the remnants of what's in the blood that was left behind.
It's called an Illumitrace blood tracker.
Can we say black light?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll say black light.
Oh,
Unless you want to say that every time. Are you okay?
yeah. My grand first son just came up and was like, "Nina, you're going to pet me."
No.
Because it has several drawbacks, as a presumptive test for blood, spraying luminol at a crime scene should be an investigator's last resort for detecting blood. The problems with luminol include: one of the empirical tests for determining if a stain is blood is its appearance. If it is a blood stain, then it should look like blood. A blood stain also has to be present in sufficient quantity to perform confirmatory testing and testing for genetic markers. This requires that the blood stain is visible to the naked eye. The luminol reaction is at best a presumptive test for blood. If the stain is so dilute that it can only be visualized with luminol, then no further analysis can be performed to confirm the presence of blood. Luminol will give false reactions. Luminol will react with copper ions, copper compounds, iron compounds, and cobalt ions. It will also react with potassium permanganate, found in some dyes, and hydrated sodium hypochlorite, bleach. 6. Ferrocyanide and plant peroxidases could also give false reactions. 7. Studies have shown that
That was interesting right there. People wonder how they can tell if bleach has been or there's been a cleanup. Well, this luminol reacts with it, so it gives it a false reading, and you can tell that they've used something, some kind of chemical to try to clean it up. Is that not what he said?
Yeah, and that's the reason that when people talk about, a cleanup and stuff like that, I'm like, y'all do not understand, because if they're using some kind of cleanup, you can actually see the rag marks and everything.
Yeah, I know that you did a deep dive on yours, and I've looked at mine also. We were both interested in the blood there for a long time, and we were trying to figure it all out because that was a hot topic, the cleanup. They
Right.
cleaned it up. They cleaned up the crime scene. I believe that people thought that when they were viewing the photos of the inside of the house, that's exactly what it looked like that night. Which, as we see now, it didn't look like that at all. There was hardly any room to walk. There
Yeah,
was
I
stuff
mean,
all
that's
over
the,
the floor.
I've said it 100 times. There's no way those college kids cleaned that crime scene to where luminol or any kind of any kind of black light or nothing would show up.
Right. And you're telling me that you would be so, if you can't see visible markers of blood on the surface of the floor or objects or whatever, how do you know what to clean up? You could see a blood drop in it and clean it up, but who's to say that there's not any kind of spray type of the blood all over near the spot that you just cleaned up?
And here's
It's
the
gonna
thing about it is you've got some of them that are looking at these pictures and they're like, "Look, there's a white spot. That's where they cleaned it." Bitch, please, do you see that spatter up above it? Then you're going to tell me they just cleaned the wall below it?
right.
I mean,
Right.
why they going to leave that part and clean this part?
Yeah, that's how usually people get caught, you know, identifying that there's been a cleanup because they don't get every aspect.
You
I think
can't.
I think with the Casey Anthony case, didn't she try? She didn't try to clean up the trunk. I thought she tried to clean up like her car or something.
I
And
think she tried to get rid of the odor.
yeah, I think something like that. But I think that they were able to see blood
Right.
drop, blood evidence that she wasn't able to clean up. I mean, think about it. You're not watching every little speck of blood that goes from your body. Some of it you can't even see, it's so microscopic. So it's really crazy, but it's interesting to know that this does exist to catch
And
people.
Sharon down there, I don't know if she works with like forensics or something, but she's pretty dang knowledgeable. And I don't know if everybody's following Unravel, but Unravel is the one that did the video that has the two flashes in the surveillance video. She's the one that picked up on the two flashes.
Okay. Well, we're gonna show those unravel. Hopefully, if I can get them to work. Thank you for that. And if you have a channel, just drop your link. You're more than welcome to drop your link.
Thank you,
And
Gage.
you're welcome.
luminol will cause the loss of several genetic markers, 8, 9. Because luminol is water-based, it could cause latent, possibly bloody impressions to smear. Luminol could also further dilute an already diluted stain. This may push the stain beyond the genetic marker analysis detection limits. Unfortunately, some crime scene investigators use luminol as their first choice for detecting blood. By using luminol in such a reckless manner, it is possible to lose valuable information from a bloodstain. When searching for blood at a crime scene, especially blood that may have been cleaned up, the investigator should first use a high-intensity light to search for any traces of blood. Bloodstains are not easy to eradicate. Diluted blood will often leave a brownish stain where a person has tried to clean it. Blood also has a tendency to flow into floorboard cracks, into carpet padding, behind baseboards, etc. By conducting
What did he just say? Blood has a tendency to do what?
Yes, it does. It does.
Flow into
Yes, it
cracks?
does.
So, uh-oh.
Well, then that biohazard team needs fired.
a thorough examination with a high-intensity light source, the investigator can usually find these areas. These items can then be removed or collected and submitted to the crime lab for confirmatory testing.
Because that's what they told us, right? That there was pieces of the floor cut out. They cut out the wall in Maddie's room, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing
Um,
about it was when I don't know if you know it or not, but I did a deep dive on the biohazard removal, the asbestos removal, the lead paint removal, and the demo. And they found what happened was after all that was done, by the time they came in and cut out all the places that the blood had seeped to, then they cut out all the asbestos and the lead paint. They said that there was hardly anything left of the inside of the house.
right, because they had gutted it pretty much.
Right.
I mean, so tearing it down was the most obvious thing. I mean, they wouldn't have
Oh
been able
yeah. And
to
the
see
thing
anything.
about it was Team Idaho, they knew immediately that they were in a money pit at that. You know what I'm saying? So their
Right,
best thing to do at that point was, oh, guess what? We're donating it.
right. And then, you knock it down and they haven't done anything with it as far as I know. I haven't kept up with the house.
Right. Yeah, I
Now
did a
here's
deep dive on it.
Well, this guy is very knowledgeable and he's very easy to understand. He's gonna take
Yes,
us on
yes.
another
And it's not boring at all.
no. Here he's gonna continue on showing us exactly the blood evidence and how it differentiates between just a droplet of blood.
these transfer stain patterns. So I'm going to take some blood and put it onto my hand and then move that across the surface. So if I touch the surface and then move my hand, we see what's called feathering, the effect of movement on blood, just like if I took a paintbrush and moved it across a wall. In the beginning, it would be darker, but eventually it would get lighter. So this feathering effect helps us interpret movement at a crime scene. This could be found at a crime scene in many different ways. One could be a suspect has blood on their hands and they move it across a clean surface. And another very common way that we see these patterns at a crime scene are what's called drag marks. We have a victim that's bleeding and either they're moving through the scene or someone's dragging them through the scene. And we'd see the same effect, that feathering going towards the body. Next, we're going to cover flow patterns, and that is a volume of blood being affected by gravity. So we can see here is that gravity is pulling upon that blood and pulling it down on
So
our
what
surface.
does that look
At
like to
crime scenes, this may
y'all?
be very valuable evidence.
What does that look like to
I don't
y'all?
know. I ain't never seen anything like that going down the outside of a house.
Let me show y'all again. What does this look like? Does this not look like the blood on the outside of the house?
It's a little
Come on,
bright
chat.
red.
Come on, chat. Y'all let me know, yes or no. Um, the outsides, yeah, the wall on the outside of the house, which many people have made attribute to the body cam video. That you look at the body cam video earlier on when the noise complaint was done with Kaylee, and you don't see these droplets of whatever substance that people believe it is. I'm gonna stick with blood. I'm gonna stick with
I
blood.
think I'm sleepy. I'm going to bed.
You're sleepy? I just woke up, so I'm
No,
finally
I'm
getting into my
joking.
I apologize for the subs for my crankiness at the very beginning. I am not really one of those people that jumps out of bed bright eyed and bushy tailed, and I've been sleeping, waking up all day. So I don't know what or why that's happening, but regardless, I I apologize for that for any of y'all that may have ran off because I was a little cranky. I'm not cranky at anybody or anything. I'm just myself. Sometimes, you have those moments.
And we love you for that.
Well, thank you for that. So this does look like the blood on the outside of the house that goes down the wall, and it almost is perfect replica. It's almost a perfect replica, is it not? Let's watch that again. Look how he does this. So if you're inside that wall where Ethan was, that would mean that regardless of where his head was or whatever, the blood that either puddled up or pooled at that corner, it went down like this.
And that is the volume of blood being affected
But see,
by
you got to consider
what you
too
see here is that gravity is
that,
pulling upon
and
that
I
blood
know there's
and
nurses
pulling
in
it
here
down.
that can tell me if I'm saying it right, but he got Ethan's jugular, but he also got his clav. Anyway, it's
Uh,
the artery behind the clavicle.
right. One of them is the one on the side of the neck, right? And then he got the one. He actually like. It sounded like he sliced down. He was trying to decapitate him almost.
Well, the way that somebody told me that how you get stabbed behind your clavicle is going in from the back.
So, do you believe Ethan was on his stomach?
See, that's what I. Well, he's laying on his stomach right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's what I wondered was if hit. Okay, see, they said that behind the clavicle, that injury is like instantaneous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
instantaneous may be 10 seconds, but there's no getting up and fighting. You know, so if he's laying on his stomach and he gets him from behind his clavicle and then
Serious.
just raises his head,
Yeah.
I mean, then that's the reason I have always felt that that on the outside was from Ethan,
Yeah.
is
It's
because of the way his head was at that headboard.
so Sirius says subclavian artery.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Sirius. So that artery right there, so let's look at this a little bit because as we know, if the heart is still beating, then it's gushing every time the heart beats.
Right.
So just because you're no longer alive, it takes a couple, I would say at least a couple minutes. I'm no doctor or anything, but based on thinking, I would think that the heart would not instantaneously die. It would still keep beating a little bit.
Well,
Am I wrong?
I do know that two of them died of a sanguination.
Right. Asphyxiation as well. I heard that they choked on their own blood.
Yeah. Isn't that what a sanguination is?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a big word. It's a big word. So serious, would that be true that the heart would still keep beating even though the artery was severed? At least for the capacity of blood not being able to be pumped anymore through the body. But if the body affected rugs and how the heart beats. We can say drugs or alcohol in here. We don't really use drugs or red rum and all that. We can use whatever because I'm not monetized, so it's all good. I think exsanguination is a loss of blood. Sanguine is blood. Okay. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. We know where you've been, Leslie. It's all good. Asphyxiation is a condition caused by oxygen deprivation, leading to breathing difficulties and potentially death. Well, y'all are right on point. Thank you so much for that. It's always awesome to have people in the chat that are professionals and know exactly what it is, isn't it, Nina? Nina?
Yes, and I'm wrong about exsanguination.
Yeah, I was wrong about asphyxiation.
A
so,
sanguin
so
a
we
sanguination is
were. I
the
mean,
a
that's what I'm
sanguination
saying.
is the action of draining a person's blood.
Okay, so you know, big words, big words. I'm glad that like I just said, I'm glad that we have people that can tell us exactly what it is, rather than leading us astray. I will never say that again. Yes, it does take a
Oh,
village.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. A sanguination, it can occur internally, which causes them to so it they asphyxiate on their blood.
So it's like they choked on their blood. That was the understanding that I got. The blood was, since
It,
they were unable to breathe, they were, choking from.
penetrating wounds to that sever arteries. Yay!
I
I
know.
got it right.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Leslie.
Oh, I know.
I'll go and help you wash dishes next time.
Oh, good. I've got 4 sinkfuls.
No, I'm talking about Leslie. She said she was washing dishes.
Oh,
So, um, if you're not getting the notifications, please do yourself a favor and unsubscribe and then resubscribe. That should fix the problem, but I'm not sure. See, because I have to resubscribe and get notifications too, because I think that there's a time limit of how long YouTube lets you do that, because I stopped getting my own notifications. And I went back in and hit the notification button, and I've been getting notified. So possibly, um, maybe that might fix it. But yeah, let's move along.
on our surface. At crime scenes, this may be very valuable evidence when we observe our victims' injuries. A person had an injury to their shoulder. If they're standing or if their body is erect, that flow pattern should go straight down their arm.
There
But
it
if
is.
they've been moved or this movement or that injury was caused when they're laying down, we'd see a different flow pattern. So next we're going to discuss saturation and pooling patterns that we'd have at a crime scene. Saturation and pooling patterns could tell us that someone is bleeding in a certain part in a crime scene for a period of time. Sometimes when we
Hold on. He said if you're standing, then that flow pattern is going to look like this. But if you're laying down, it's going to look different. So
right.
could Ethan have been starting to stand up and gotten attacked, and then that's when the blood started flowing like that?
I'll say yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's okay. It's okay for you guys to show up late. It's great. I mean, just the fact that you're here, that's fine, you know. But listen to what he says right here.
cause when they're laying down, we'd see a different flow pattern. So next we're going to discuss saturation and pooling patterns that we'd have at a crime scene. Saturation and pooling patterns could tell us that someone is bleeding in a certain part in a crime scene for a period of time. Sometimes when we see bubbles at a scene, that could mean that we have a expirated pattern or a pattern that's coming from an airway. But let's pop those because we don't want. But what this could tell me is that we had accumulation of blood there and that there's been no movement, because if this happened and then we moved the shirt, we would see that the blood would move in that direction. Typically we'll see this on mattresses or beds or bedding, and then it would absorb a little more.
And that's what we saw at the very first photo, right? In the
Yeah,
corner.
where Maddie's head and stuff. And
Yeah,
if you'll notice where that pillow is, right above that to the left on the wall, the feathering he was talking about, it's got some streaks going across. And to me, that looks like maybe where it got in her hair.
right, right. I mean, this is some very deep stuff, but you know what? It explains those photos, at least what we've seen, in my unblood specialist opinion.
Right.
So now we're going to have an accumulation of blood on a non-porous surface, and we'll see pooling. So pooling and saturation, it's the same mechanism that we're looking at, just the accumulation of blood. But with pooling, the blood is not being absorbed into the surface. For pools of blood, what we'll see with actual whole blood that has fibrin in it, they will dry a lot slower than it would in something that's absorbent.
See, and my impression of this is always like if somebody was stabbed and the blood started clotting through the skin, it would leave a bruise around the area, and you would see the pulling hard, or like almost not scab over, but you know what I'm saying. It would leave an impression of the blood right there. It would not flow down their body or anything else because of the gravity would be holding most of the blood in the wound. Is that not kind of
Right.
what they're talking about?
That's the way I took it.
And I apologize for that annoying noise. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming from my computer, and I don't know if it's like a corded jiggle. That sound right there. I don't know if a corded jiggling or something. I apologize for that because it's on probably every video that I do. I got to figure it out. I got to take all this stuff apart and put it back together.
But also, we're going to see over a period of time is clotting inside that pool. And then sometimes we'll see affect what's called serum separation. So the edges of this will be clear where we see the plasma of the blood as it separates. So now we're moving on to the spatter category of bloodstain pattern analysis. With this category of bloodstains, we're looking at some sort of external force on an open source of blood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small amount of blood on our wood here. I'm going to strike it with a hammer. And what we should see is an impact spatter on the plexiglass in front of us. Put on my goggles. I'm going to put my hood up. Give us a small amount of blood here. All right, ready? There we go. So as you can see, not only do we have impact spatter on the plexiglass in front of us, we also have it on our suspect here. Okay, so we applied force to an open source of blood.
When I saw this, I thought to myself, if that was a K-bar knife that he was plunging, as he was pulling that out, would it not have done almost the same thing with the forcefulness of, like stabbing into the body? Because the coroner said there was tears. It was
Right.
almost
Right.
like he was ripping it back out. And
Well,
I
see,
mean,
I talked to Unfiltered Loki about the K bar because there was somebody it was one of the experts, and it was talking about the it's he said like a groove that the blood would get stored in.
hmm
And I was asking Loki about it, and he said that the groove is actually cut out to lighten the blade, to take some of the metal out because it's a heavy knife. But
right,
that when you're using it for like deer or something like that, that it because it is grooved like that, the blood will store in there, and that's where like the 90-degree angle droplets is it will run down that groove to the point of the knife down to the floor.
right. Yeah, it would have been all over the place. To
Right.
answer your question, Leslie said, "Did you guys see the blood spots on the floor of the kids? How is it there's no smudges? He stepped in between them. That's what Scott said. Scott who? I
Scott
don't know.
Roeder Scott Roeder said that that the reason that there's no stepping on those 90-degree spots is because his body is devoid.
Right, and that's what it's called a void. That's what this guy's going to show you. That whenever blood is being either spattered or transferred, if there's anything in between that part, like the floor, and it's kind of like he's standing there watching and he's bleeding or it's coming off the knife. Well, if it lands on his shoe, you're going to see where his shoe was. It's not going to go through the shoe and land on the floor. It's going to go to the shoe. You know what I mean? This guy's going to show you that.
Right. But that's the
And we
reason
are
that he was talking, because people have asked, well, those perfect round spots, why did nobody step on them? Because he's
Right.
standing there. Nobody's stepping after he leaves. He's already killed them.
Right. There's nobody coming behind him.
Right.
It's interesting to me. I guess the dog did get scared and went and hung her down. Otherwise, Murphy would have had blood in his fur. There would have been paw prints all over the place. Because if he stepped in the blood, then you would have seen paw prints. And
But dogs clean themselves incessively.
you're a little loud. What?
Dogs will clean themselves completely up.
I didn't know that. So if he would have stepped in blood, he would have cleaned the blood off of him?
Oh, yeah. He would have sit there and he would obsess over licking that off of himself.
I was not aware of that, Nina.
Yes.
Okay.
Cats, too.
Okay.
resulting impact stain. Our stain pattern, what we'll notice is directly opposite where the force was applied, we have our blood striking that surface at 90 degrees. So these stains that we have right here near the bottom are circular. But the further we move away from that source, these blood stains are now hitting this surface at an angle. So our stains are more elliptical. Bludgeoning would be the most common way that we get these stains, but it could be...
The first tool for documenting the crime scene investigation is note-taking. An investigator should be as thorough as...
This room right here, and I hope we can discuss this, Nina, because I found this. I even hope it's part of the house, but have you
That
ever
is in that's the corner in Dylan's room.
That's where that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen this photo before.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I thought that this was interesting, I think people were saying that that's blood on that box. You
No,
see
now
that?
see, at first I saw that picture because the spare room where Ashlyn Couch's old room was, where the golf clubs were.
I thought that too.
Maddie would use that room to do marketing and stuff for the restaurant. And so at first, when I saw that, I thought, well, that must be where the computer and stuff is, where they would sit and do that. But
Right.
then I was in somebody's chat and they were like, no, that is on the other side of Dylan's room.
Yeah,
So
no,
it
in that little
could be the
closet
spare room or
area,
it could be Dylan's room.
that little closet part.
Yeah.
Like there, she had the closet, and then she has kind of
Yes.
like Haley does up there, that little cubic, the little
Yes. That's where they said that was.
Okay. Hey, Firefly, thank you for being here, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Um, she said I would think there would be trace blood on him if he had stepped in blood, even if he tried to clean himself. Yeah. Sharon says, what is the circle on the left bottom side of the molding around the door? I can't figure that out. That looks like I'm gonna show these pictures where they're bigger. We can zoom in on them and stuff, and we'll look at that here in a minute. Okay, we're almost done with
That's
this.
actually the shadow of a door and the doorknob.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna show these pictures bigger because I'm gonna show some stuff that Nina sent me as well. So let's continue on with this.
Possible when taking notes. All of the pertinent times and actions taken should be recorded, such as who contacted the investigator and when. When did the investigator leave for the crime scene? When did the investigator arrive at the scene? What actions were taken by the investigator and when? When did the investigator leave the scene, etc. Notes should be recorded throughout the entire crime scene investigation. Examination of the crime scene will usually begin with a walkthrough of the area along the trail of the crime. The trail is that area where all apparent actions associated with the crime took place. This trail is usually marked by the presence of evidence. Point of entry, location of a body, areas where the suspect may have cleaned up, and the point of exit are all included in the trail. The purpose of the walkthrough is to note the location of potential evidence and to mentally outline how the scene will be processed. The walkthrough begins as close to the point of entry as possible. The first place the investigator should examine is the ground on which they are about to tread. If any evidence is found, then a marker should be placed at the location as a warning not to step on the item of interest. When searching for blood evidence, it is important to use a high-intensity light. A high-intensity light source will aid in the visualization of blood stains, even stains that have been diluted. The light source can also be used to provide oblique side lighting. Oblique lighting is an excellent tool for finding trace evidence and other small items of interest. As the walkthrough progresses, the investigator should make sure their hands are occupied by either carrying notebooks, flashlights, pens, etc., or by keeping their hands in their pockets. This prevents the investigator from depositing unwanted fingerprints at the crime scene. As a final note on the walkthrough, the investigators should examine the areas above their heads, ceiling, tree branches, etc. These areas may yield blood spatters, bullet holes, etc. Once the walkthrough is completed, the notes must be supplemented with other forms of documentation, such as videotape, photographs, and/or sketches. Videotape can be an excellent medium for documenting bloodstains at a crime scene. If a video camera is available, it is best used after the initial walkthrough. This is to record the evidence before any major alterations have occurred at the scene.
See, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see the kids, so to speak. I want to see the walkthrough before anybody went through there. I want to see exactly the firsthand perspective of the officer walking through there. I don't want to see the kids. I don't care to see the kids. I mean, they could blur all that out, but I want to see step by step, very slowly walking through the crime scene. I mean, that is the part that I want to see. I want to see the area by the latent shoe print. I want to see all that. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
more into the the investigative part rather than seeing the kids
And
in their
see, there's a
car.
lot of people that are like, these pictures are crap. No, they're not. They're not the forensics. There's not there. It's not the 4,000 pictures that was taken by ISP and the forensics people. This is a police officer that is going through there until everybody can get there and do their investigation, that had a mind enough to say, I need to take some pictures, and that's what he did.
Right, right.
I mean, to preserve whatever until people could get there that was smarter than them.
Well, I mean, that's what they're trained to do, Nina. That is the investigative process that they teach you in 101. I mean, the course that I just took at the very beginning of the semester, this semester and last semester, that's crime scene 101. You know, you go in there and you document what you see, what you hear, what you observe. You know, and you're right on point. You're right on point with that. I'm glad he was mindful of that myself. You know.
Right. I mean,
Video
that's a, most of them are like, well, where's the markers? Where's the 1, 2, 3, 4? Where's those people hadn't got here yet. These are still the Moscow Police Department that last night they were giving out being drunk tickets, and now they're in a quadruple murder scene.
Right, right. I mean, that just shows you that people had no understanding of real investigation of how the process goes. They believe that the first responders were the ones that were investigating the murders.
No.
They believe they believe that at that point, Detective Payne and Blaker were the investigators. They were not the investigators. They were in charge of basically putting everything together that the investigators were finding. The forensic team, the fingerprint team, the tire mark impressionist, all the people were reporting back to them what they were finding. That's their role. They were not going through the house investigating on their own. See, that's what people believe, that Blaker and Payne were the ones that were finding all this evidence, which is not true at all.
No, they were just the poor people that were there first.
Yeah, I mean they were assigned to gather, not gather, but to have a place to discuss the evidence with ISP and the FBI once they got involved.
Tape provides a perspective on the crime scene layout that cannot be as easily perceived in photographs and sketches. It is a more natural viewing medium to which people can readily relate, especially in demonstrating the structure of the crime scene and how the evidence relates to those structures. The value of videotaping blood evidence is that the overall relationship of various blood spatters and patterns can be demonstrated. One example of this could be a beating homicide. In this case, videotape can show the overall blood spatter patterns and how these spatters are interrelated. The videotape can also show the relationship of the spatters to the various structures at the crime scene. In cases where the suspect may have been injured, such as stabbing homicides, the video camera can be used to document any blood trails that may lead away from the scene. If videotaping indoors, the camera can show how the various areas are laid out in relation to each other and how they can be accessed. This is particularly valuable when recording peripheral bloodstains that may be found in other rooms. The high-intensity light source can also be used for illuminating the bloodstains to make them more visible on the videotape. The first tool for documenting the crime scene investigation is note-taking. An investigator should be as thorough as possible when taking notes. All of the pertinent times and actions taken should be recorded, such as who contacted the investigator and when. When did the investigator leave for the...
This photo makes me sad. It really does. You can't see anything, but you can, based on what we've read, based on what we know, it just makes me sad. This is one of the photos that makes me the saddest. People, I've heard multitudes of people discuss that black area right there is a pool of blood. As you can see, and I'm going to show this picture here in a little while, that table that was next to the bed where all that blood was coming off the bed and was right there, maybe that thud that you heard was actually Xana hitting that damn table and falling right where she laid. I mean, this picture just makes me sad because I know in my mind that she laid right there at her final resting place. Nina?
Yeah, that's one of the most profound pictures. That one and the two of the droplets. That's the three that get me.
Yeah, the droplets got me a little bit, but this one because you know how small that room is. You know what I mean?
And I mean, don't take anything I'm saying the wrong way, but everybody needs to realize that Xana fought from the time she was a little girl. She wasn't of privilege. She wasn't of the upper class or the great family life. She was a
Right.
scrapper due to her childhood. You know what I'm saying? And when I say scrapper, I just mean she fought to get in that sorority. She fought to find the love of her life. She fought to get to that college. She fought to be right at the cusp of having the life that she worked so hard for.
Right, right.
And to
I
just
agree.
have it just taken away. And that's not taking away from Ethan or Maddie or Kaylee or anybody like that. Maddie didn't have it easy either. Having a parent that's an addict, that's not good for any child. But, for Xana, you know, I don't know. And it's not that I'm partial to Xana. It's just that she finally saw that light in her life.
Right. And I mean just the whole the whole part of this, the four, they all had
Right,
their story. They all had their stories. They all
right.
have, as human beings, we're just not one dimensional. And I think people have tried to make these individuals that died one dimensional. They made them partiers.
They
They
are
made
definitely more than the Idaho 4.
right, right. And that's why this photo makes me so sad. I mean, because even though it's blurred out, you can almost see more than what your mind wants you to see, and
Right.
because that is that white table right there by that bed. You see where my cursor is,
Yeah.
and her body's right here, and the Coors Light bottle is not far. Not the bottle. The box is not far from her, on this side of the room. But let's move on. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here.
Crime scene. When did the investigator arrive at the scene? What actions were taken by the investigator and when? When did the investigator leave the scene? Etc. Notes should be recorded throughout the entire crime scene investigation. Examination of the crime scene will usually begin with a walkthrough of the area along the trail of the crime. The trail is that area where all apparent actions associated with the crime took place. This trail is usually marked by the
I wanted to say this earlier, and I wanted to say this every time that we talk about this little hallway right here. Just like what we are just saying about the blood droplets on the floor. People have always said, how come there's not been a blood trail? How come there wasn't blood coming from the room? How come there wasn't all that blood that that was supposedly in that room? How come it wasn't down this hallway in the living area? Well, he had just explained it, the void factor of the blood spatter. If he's standing there and most of the blood is going on him, it's going to leave a void in that area where he's standing. So there's not going to be any blood that he steps in. If he steps in it, it's not going to be enough at that particular point because most of the blood is being absorbed into the mattress or it's being absorbed into other things along where the victims are. So it's not going to be going down the hallway. It's not going to be like he stepped in, and we're going to see an example of how blood gets lighter the more you step. So this could explain a lot of it as well. But yeah, I just don't I don't like when people talk like that. It's almost like it's just so factual. Like if there's no blood down that hallway, then that didn't happen that way. Well, there's no open mind there because that's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this blood investigation happens. You
They didn't
don't
get killed in the hallway. They got killed in the bedroom.
right. And you think if he was smart enough not to get DNA and all that other stuff, if there wasn't any of his DNA in the room, you don't think he would have been smart enough not to step in blood and track it all down the hallway? I mean, I'm with a lot of people. They say, well, you know, the ones that I've talked about this case, they're actually professionals. We talked about how he probably stripped down in that room where he didn't have the capacity to bring any kind of blood down that hallway where it would be dripping against the wall as he was walking. You know what I mean? That if he could have been multi-layered, is what
Oh
I'm saying.
yeah, that's what I said from the beginning was, those little white suits are disposable. He could have wore 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah. And then the black that she saw was the eventual clean clothing.
Right. And I think that that could be what saved her life is he had already stripped off all the bloodies and he was like, I can't get in my car with bloody clothes on. I've just got to let her go.
Right. That's a good thought.
presence of evidence. Point of entry, location of a body, areas where the suspect may have cleaned up, and the point of exit are all included in the trail. The purpose of the walkthrough is to note the location of potential evidence and to mentally outline how the scene will be processed. The walkthrough begins as close to the point of entry as possible. The first place the investigators should examine is the ground on which they are about to tread. If any evidence is found, then a marker should be placed at the location as a warning not to step on the item of interest. When searching for blood evidence, it is important to use a high-intensity light. A high-intensity light source will aid in the visualization of bloodstains, even stains that have been diluted. The light source can also be used to provide oblique side lighting. Oblique lighting is an excellent tool for finding trace evidence and other small items of interest. As the walkthrough progresses, the investigator should make sure their hands are occupied by either carrying notebooks, flashlights, pens, etc., or by keeping their hands in their pockets. This prevents the investigator from depositing unwanted fingerprints at the crime scene. As a final note on the walkthrough, the investigators should examine the areas above their heads, ceiling, tree branches, etc. These areas may yield blood spatters, bullet holes, etc. Once the walkthrough is completed, the notes must be supplemented with other forms of documentation, such as videotape, photographs, and/or sketches. Videotape can be an excellent medium for documenting bloodstains at a crime scene. If a video camera is available, it is best used after the initial walkthrough. This is to record the evidence before any major alterations have occurred at the scene. Videotape provides a perspective on the crime scene layout that cannot be as easily perceived in photographs and sketches. It is a more natural viewing medium to which people can readily relate, especially in demonstrating the structure of the crime scene and how the evidence relates to those structures. The value of videotaping blood evidence is that the overall relationship of various blood spatters and patterns can be demonstrated. One example of this could be a beating homicide. In this case, videotape can show the overall blood spatter patterns and how these spatters are interrelated. The videotape can also show the relationship of the spatters to the various structures at the crime scene. In cases where the suspect may have been injured, such as stabbing homicides, the video camera can be used to document any blood trails that may lead away from the scene. If videotaping indoors, the camera can show how the various areas are laid out in relation to each other and how they can be accessed. This is particularly valuable when recording peripheral bloodstains that may be found in other rooms. The high-intensity light source can also be used for illuminating the bloodstains to make them more visible on the videotape. Whether a video camera is available or not, it is absolutely essential that still photographs are taken to document the crime scene and any associated blood evidence. If a video camera is available, then still photography will be the second step in recording the crime scene. If video is not available, then still photography will be the first step. Photographs can demonstrate the same type of things that the videotape does, but crime scene photographs can also be used to record close-up details, record objects at any scaled size, and record objects at actual size. These measurements and recordings are more difficult to achieve with videotape. Blood evidence can be photographed using color print film and/or color slide film. Infrared film can also be used for documenting bloodstains on dark surfaces.
So this is Maddie's door, right? Nina?
Yes, that's Maddie's door, because there should be the two little spots right underneath the doorknob.
Yeah. I apologize for the quality of this video. I put it together very fast and I may have overlapped um the screenshotted part. But I will put the link of the video so you can go back and watch it on YouTube. It is a very informative video. And I also put the link of the information where I got the information from. It was on the forensic page. I will put the link in the bottom of the chat as well.
Lane says, "Hey, 12, she didn't see you up there."
Hey, Lane, how are you? Yeah, we do have two different chats going on. One's coming from Nina's stream and one's coming from mine. So sometimes people get confused on that.
Overall, medium range and close-up photographs should be taken of pertinent bloodstains. Scaled photographs, photographs with a ruler next to the evidence, must also be taken of items in cases where size relevance is significant, or when direct, one-to-one, comparisons will be made, such as with bloody shoe prints, fingerprints, high-velocity blood spatter patterns, etc. A good technique for recording a large area of blood spatter on a light-colored wall is to measure and record the heights of some of the individual blood spatters. The overall pattern on the wall, including a yardstick as a scale, is then photographed with slide film. After the slide is developed, it can be projected onto a blank wall or onto the actual wall many years after the original incident. By using a yardstick, the original blood spatters can be viewed at their actual size and placed in their original positions. Measurements and projections can then be made to determine the spatters' points of origin. 10. Another method of documenting blood evidence is by drawing a sketch of the crime scene. The drawback of photographs is that they are two-dimensional representations of three-dimensional objects. As a result, photos can distort the spatial relationships of the photographed objects, causing them to appear closer together or farther apart than they actually are. If spatial relationships of the evidence are important, or if something needs to have proportional measurements included in it for calculations, such as blood spatter patterns, then a sketch must be made. Computer programs are available for sketching crime scenes and blood spatters by inputting certain measurements associated with the scene and the individual spatters. This blood spatter program will then calculate and draw the spatters' points of origin. These programs might come in handy where there are many blood spatters and the points of origin need to be determined. For more in-depth information on videotaping, photographing, and sketching crime scenes, refer to the recommended reading list. The final method of evidence documentation is the chain of custody form. The chain of custody form is a written record of all evidence transfers from the crime scene to possession of the court or the clerk of court. Proper chain of custody thoroughly documents the movement of evidence, the security of the evidence, who had possession of the evidence, and when the evidence was in a person's possession. The chain of custody form must accompany the evidence all the way to its final destination. A copy should also be kept in the case folder. The following information must be recorded on the form: a description of the evidence and its container, the specific recovery location of the evidence, case numbers, the date and time it was collected, who collected it, whether or not the evidence container was sealed upon transfer to another individual, who received the evidence, the dates and times of any evidence transfers, who delivered the evidence, and the final disposition of the evidence. This is necessary to demonstrate that the evidence was not contaminated in a way to alter the information that the evidence originally contained. It also demonstrates that the original evidence was not planted or changed in some way before its presentation in court. After the evidence has been documented using videotape, photographs, sketches, and chain of custody forms, the evidence collection process can begin. Collection and preservation of blood evidence. Once the crime scene has been thoroughly documented and the locations of the evidence.
Well, let me talk about the planting part right there. Other than the obvious, many agencies are not going to risk their careers, their reputations, and their integrity to plant anything anywhere. Also, like you just said, there's so many step-by-step investigative protocols that you have to do that it'd be difficult to plant something to get somebody to be a suspect. Because at any point early on, before the 21st, I believe, of December, they didn't even have Koberger on their radar. And they were investigating all this stuff at this house. So you're telling me that they didn't know who he was, they didn't have him on their radar, but they planted his DNA on the sheath before the
Uh huh.
21st.
Uh huh.
You're telling me that they planted, if they found DNA of his at any other part of the house, that they planted his DNA before they knew who he was.
Uh huh.
So you're telling me they just randomly picked him and then made all this information fit him before they even had him on the radar?
I
How much
think
sense,
mother turned him in.
how much sense does that mean? Or does that make?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, other than the obvious, they're not going to risk their credentials, their reputation, their time on the force, all this other stuff, especially the investigative team, the FBI, the ISP, all the people.
All the alphabet, because I think the DEA was involved at some point, the CIA was involved in some point, the SERT, which was the ones that went in on the warrants. I mean, we're talking judges, we're talking magistrates, we're talking, you know, every alphabet there is as far as law enforcement, and they all got together and they went and talked to mother and father, and they decided that they needed his DNA to take him down.
And people don't realize that the district attorney is on site as a part of the investigative team as well.
Right.
So Bill
Same
Thompson was
function.
there, and once they did, you know, arrest him and get him to public defender, then Ann Taylor was able to go and visit the crime scene. There's a reason why those people are on site, to make sure that nobody is planting any kind of evidence or that there's not anything shady going on. So the
Well, here's the
planting,
thing about it. As far as the IGG and the SNP and the STR and all that, that they want to talk about the chain of custody going down to Othram, the people that took that down there said that the only time that it was out of their sight and out of their chain of custody was when they went through TSA for the airport, which was like seconds because people knew what it was. But
Mhm,
in reality, TSA had their eyes on it. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So,
So I
I
mean,
mean,
that planting, that kind of debunks that. There's a lot of things that are debunkable, but people want to
debunkable
hold. Yeah, the people want to hold on to that as tight as they want to hold on to their lies about
because
other
it's
things.
about their narrative.
Well, I mean, it's cool that it's about their narrative, but you know what? The fact of the matter is, there's not two cases being talked about on YouTube. There's one. But
But see, it's not
people have,
okay that it's not okay that it's about their narrative. It's not about my narrative. So, I
okay.
mean, I'm not going to sit up there and just totally say something off the wall like 400 people set this guy up to protect my narrative. Screw that.
Well, the part that really sold me on this whole case was the one and however quintillionth of a chance that this was his father. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was what, 28 zeros?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, I was like, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's him. It's him.
And the thing about it is, if you're going to set somebody up like that, are you really just going to use touch DNA? Hell no. I'm going to take some damn tooth plaque and everything out of their toothbrush and some hair out of their hairbrush and some skin cells out of their razor. And I'm putting that shit all over the house.
Also, Nina, if you were gonna set somebody up, wouldn't you have put the victim blood at his apartment?
Yeah.
Would you? It wouldn't that be the logical place to set him up at, not at the crime scene?
You know, I mean, they're already going touch DNA. That's not worth the crap. I would have at least used some dang biological DNA.
I would be using blood. I would be using fibers. I would be,
Give me some semen too. I mean,
I would have probably stole a garment or two from the victims and cut it into small pieces where it would be in
oh heck
places
yeah,
that
I
his,
would have done snuck in there and got some of their panties and put some biologicals on the panties and stuff like that.
you know, look, y'all, he brought back some souvenirs, some rewards of his killing.
Exactly. Didn't
That's
y'all find that stuffed in his vent in the car?
right, right. Hey, you would have put a droplet of the victim blood under the door handles where he would have known it
Yeah,
was there. I mean, come on, man. If you're gonna get
squirted it in
creative,
between the cracks of the back of the seat and the front of the seat. You know, down in that little crease.
yeah, if you're gonna get creative, get creative. Don't just.
Exactly.
I
It's
mean,
going to be
when
more than a little skin cell of touch DNA.
yeah, if you're gonna scream, planting, get creative. At least use your brain a little bit. Not okay with just the knife sheep with planted. That was all there was.
Noted, then the collection process can begin. The collection process will usually start with the most fragile or most easily lost evidence. Special consideration can also be given to any evidence or objects that need to be moved. Collection can then continue along the crime scene trail or in some other logical manner. Photographs should continue to be taken if the investigator is revealing layers of evidence that were not previously documented because they were obscured. Crime scene investigation supplies.
A phenomenon called forward spatter and back spatter. So if someone is shot and a bullet passes through, say, their shoulder, we have blood going in the direction of the force, so with the bullet out of the exit. But we also have blood going the opposition of the force, and that's what we call back spatter. First off, we started by creating different patterns that we could analyze. Next step, we're going to look at something a little more difficult. Next we do is calculate the area of convergence. That's a two-dimensional area on our surface. If we draw a line through the long axis of several stains where all these lines will meet, they should converge in an area somewhere in the center here. What I want to do is pick several stains that are elliptical from different sides of the pattern. We're looking at this to solve where this blood came from. I'm going to start with this stain here, and I'm going to line up so that I'm drawing a line through the long axis of my stain. So this is where the tail is going to help me out to figure out the directionality, but also to line up my ruler. And then sometimes what we'll do is just kind of show for a jury an arrow the direction that stain was going. So then I'll move around the pattern from different sides of it and draw through different stains. So this isn't done at every crime scene, but when we have a pattern like this, we have elliptical stains along the outside, and we have some circular stains towards the inside. This is the perfect opportunity for us to do some analysis. I could keep going and draw more lines through more stains, and it should all be coming back to the same general direction. So if this was on the wall and this was very low, this could be very powerful evidence to show that, that was low to the ground where this impact happened. Since we identified different stains that are striking our surface at different angles, we're going to figure out the angle of impact that these stains hit our surface. We do that by measuring the length of the stain, we divide it into the width of the stain, and the arc sine of that number will give us our angle of impact. So we're measuring stains. We always want to use millimeters, allows us for smaller measurements. So what we could also use is a digital caliper, and that will give us precise sub-millimeter measurements. So I want to measure the length of the stain, the long axis of the stain. So this is 3.1 millimeters. And then I'd measure the width of it. So I'm measuring the widest part of the stain. That's 1.7 millimeters. We're going to divide 3.1 into 1.7. So if we do the arc sine of that number, that will give us the angle of impact, which is 33.25. If you had a regular ruler, you would just have to round up to the closest millimeter. So in this case, this stain is 4 millimeters. And then we measure the width of it. It is 2 millimeters.
Most items of evidence will be collected in clean, unused paper containers such as packets, envelopes, and bags. Moist or wet biological evidence, blood, body fluids, plants, etc., from a crime scene can be collected in clean, unused plastic containers at the scene and transported back to an evidence receiving area if the storage time in sealed plastic is less than 2 hours, and this is done to prevent contamination of other evidence. Once in a secure location,
Okay, I
wet
have a
evidence,
question
whether
on this picture.
packaged in plastic or paper, must be removed and allowed to completely air dry.
Yes.
Okay, you see the purple wrapper that is with the little squirt bottle with a little bit of, what is that, green liquid or something?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody wants to tell me that that looks like a grape blunt wrapper. Isn't that sort of short to be a blunt wrapper?
Yeah.
Does that not look like maybe a 2-pack of condoms?
I don't know. We'll have to zoom in on that picture for sure.
But yeah, they're like, that's a great blunt wrapper. Well, that's the shortest blunt wrapper I've ever seen.
I know. Yeah, I don't think that's a blunt wrapper.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it might have been like if y'all were saying Taco Bell, I was thinking it might have
I
been like
didn't even
some
think
hot
about
sauce.
tacos. You know what?
Some hot sauce.
Yes. Oh, hell, I was thinking condoms. Yeah, hot sauce.
Oh,
We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
we'll zoom in on it. Oh, zoom in will be fuzzy. Okay. Anybody want some watermelon slices? I'm eating some watermelon. So if you hear me crunching, don't be offended.
Dry.
Firefly
That
says,
evidence can then be
geez.
repackaged in a new, clean, unused, dry paper container. Under no circumstances should evidence containing moisture be sealed in plastic OR paper containers for more than 2 hours. Moisture allows the growth of microorganisms that can destroy or alter evidence. Any items that may cross-contaminate each other must be packaged separately. The container should be closed and secured to prevent the mixture of evidence during transportation. Each container should have the collecting person's initials, the date and time it was collected, a complete description of the evidence and where it was found, and the investigating agency's name and file number. Before transporting any items of evidence, the investigator should examine the items to determine if there is any loose trace evidence, hairs, fibers, paint chips, etc., that may be lost in transportation. If there is, then this loose evidence should be collected in a paper packet and placed in an envelope. The envelope should have the required information giving a description and the source of the trace evidence. The actual item can then be processed and collected. Blood evidence must never be exposed to excessive heat or humidity. If possible, the blood-stained evidence should be refrigerated until it can be transported to the crime lab. The evidence should also be taken.
Well, let me ask you, individual, to read the documents more than I do. Did it ever say anywhere that it was a Jack in the Box delivery? Because it looks like there's too much Taco Bell stuff in here. That does look like a Taco Bell bag looking at it from this angle. And that would be sauce. I've never seen Jack in the Box sauce like that. I think those are like in a reddish or white thing.
Yeah, I think so too, because we used to stop at Jack in the Box when we would go through Texas.
Yeah. Has
Yeah,
it been?
that's definitely Taco Bell sauce. I'm so glad that y'all said that because I would have never put it together.
So it's never been disclosed that it was actually Jack in the
No,
Box.
I don't think it's ever been disclosed that it was Jack in the Box, as far as I know.
Okay, so that that ran because of that damn Jack in the Box bag on the counter in the kitchen, right?
As far as I know, I mean, unless Firefly or Leany or somebody that does the documents, because I'll be honest with you, the 300 and something documents from the MPD, I've read maybe
Uh-huh.
4.
That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of damn reading.
Well, I mean, usually I dive right into them, but after he pled and everything, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I was just decompressing from it or whatever. But then I
Hmm.
got started doing Davo's kennels and everything, and I was just like, you know what? He's pled. He's guilty. He's in prison. And then they just kept dropping stuff, and now I'm like, damn, I got to go back and read them now.
Because that looks like a Taco Bell cup.
That
It
that
really
that,
does.
that looks just like Taco Bell seasoning now.
I mean, seriously. So we don't even know. And I said at the very beginning. I mean, I thought it was Jack in the Box, but then I thought there's no way in hell that they would have left this Jack in the Box bag. And I've said this for years. They would have left that Jack in the Box bag on that counter, unsealed or in a bag of for evidence or whatever, if they would have known that that was the DoorDash delivery. Here we go. I just wanted to ask that because I wasn't certain.
Taken to the lab as soon as possible. The following are guidelines, listed in order of the author's preferences, for collecting and preserving blood evidence. Dried bloodstains. If the blood-stained item is small and transportable, package it in a paper bag or envelope. Advantages. Requires a minimal amount of interaction with the bloodstains by the investigator. Allows the serologist to make the decisions involved in collecting the samples. Dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium. Disadvantages. More work for the
Because this is either body spray or something like that, wouldn't it be? Like hair hair toner or some shit. I don't know. You see what I'm talking about, Nina? This little bottle. Y'all still here? Nina left. Nina said, I'm out. Okay, so we're going to continue on.
Urologist, bulky items require more storage space. If the bloodstained item is large or not easily transported, then the following techniques can be used for collecting the bloodstains. If possible, the investigator should also collect samples from unstained areas of the item for negative controls, cutting out the portions of item with the bloodstains. A negative control area should also be cut out if available. Package cuttings in separate paper envelopes. Advantages: dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium, requires only a small amount of investigator interaction with the bloodstain, does not usually take.
My channel's called 12 Gauge Investigative. I guess her phone died. She'll be back as soon as she charges it up. If y'all want to come over to the chat over here until she gets back. Here we go.
Up much storage space. Disadvantages: investigator must decide which stains and controls to collect. Some materials are harder to cut than others. Tape lifting bloodstains. Place fingerprint tape, do not touch sticky surface with bare hands, over bloodstain and surrounding negative control area. Rub non-sticky side of tape with a pencil eraser or other blunt object. This is to ensure that good contact is made between the stain and the tape. Lift the bloodstain like a fingerprint and place the tape on a vinyl acetate backing. Do not use a paper backing. Paper makes the stain difficult to handle during analysis. The lifting process can be repeated several times on the same stain if necessary. Label the stains and package in a paper envelope. Advantages: dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium. Negative control is readily collected, requires little storage space, fairly easy technique to perform.
That's a good thought, Unraveled. I didn't think that. That could be aloe. You're right. Good eyeball. Good eyeball there. This is a calculator, it looks like, right? Some kind of calculator. Photos do no justice, kind of like what Sharon was saying earlier. You have to look at a photo from all angles, and that's right. I mean, if you're looking at it one dimension, you might miss something that's on the other side that would really give more understanding of what it is that you're trying to find. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit to this part because he's basically just talking about bagging um, and doing the blood evidence like that. There's really not much information. He's repeating himself a little bit, but this next part is quite interesting to me. And I'm going to ask you guys, this photo that it's about to show, where did this come from? Because I have no clue. I found these photos on Reddit.
Most items of evidence will be collected in clean, unused paper containers such as packets, envelopes, and bags. Moist or wet biological evidence, blood, body fluids, plants, etc., from a crime scene can be collected in clean, unused plastic containers at the scene.
So this looked like a closet of some sort, and I couldn't figure out whose clothing that was. So if y'all know, type that in the chat. I'm kind of curious as whose closet this was with this clothing and what was the significance of the photo.
And transported back to an evidence receiving area if the storage time in sealed plastic is less than 2 hours, and this is done to prevent contamination of other evidence. Once in a secure location, wet evidence, whether packaged in plastic or paper, must be removed and allowed to completely air dry. That evidence can then be repackaged in a new, clean, unused, dry paper container. Under no circumstances should evidence containing moisture be sealed in plastic or paper containers for more than 2 hours. Moisture allows the growth of microorganisms that can destroy or alter evidence. Any items that may cross-contaminate each other must be packaged separately. The container should be closed and secured to prevent the mixture of evidence during transportation. Each container should have the collecting person's initials, the date and time it was collected, a complete description of the evidence and where it was found, and the investigating agent.
Thank y'all for that. I will go over these photos and we will see the water stuff. We're almost done. This ends in about 10, 12 minutes. Almost hit the camera freaking thing, but it wouldn't be a big deal. I showed you a shirtless picture of the pool the other day, so it wouldn't be a big deal. I am sitting here shirtless. So.
Agency's name and file number. Before transporting any items of evidence, the investigator should examine the items to determine if there is any loose trace evidence, hairs, fibers, paint chips, etc., that may be lost in transportation. If there is, then this loose evidence should be collected in a paper packet and placed in an envelope. The envelope should have the required information giving a description and the source of the trace evidence. The actual item can then be processed and collected. Blood evidence must never be exposed to excessive heat or humidity. If possible, the blood-stained evidence should be refrigerated until it can be transported to the crime lab. The evidence should also be taken to the lab as soon as possible. The following are guidelines, listed in order of the author's preferences, for collecting and preserving blood evidence. Dried bloodstains. If the blood-stained item is small and transportable, package it in a paper bag or envelope. Advantages. Requires a minimal amount of interaction with the bloodstains by the investigator, allows the serologist to make the decisions involved in collecting the samples, dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium. Disadvantages. More work for the serologist. Bulky items require more storage space. If the bloodstained item is large or not easily transported, then the following techniques can be used for collecting the bloodstains. If possible, the investigator should also collect samples from unstained areas of the item for negative controls. Cutting out the portions of item with the bloodstains. A negative control area should also be cut out if available. Package cuttings in separate paper envelopes. Advantages: dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium, requires only a small amount of investigator interaction with the bloodstain, does not usually take up much storage space. Disadvantages: investigator must decide which stains and controls to collect. Some materials are harder to cut than others. Tape lifting bloodstains. Place fingerprint tape, do not touch sticky surface with bare hands, over bloodstain and surrounding negative control area. Rub non-sticky side of tape with a pencil eraser or other blunt object. This is to ensure that good contact is made between the stain and the tape. Lift the bloodstain like a fingerprint and place the tape on a vinyl acetate backing. Do not use a paper backing. Paper makes the stain difficult to handle during analysis. The lifting process can be repeated several times on the same stain if necessary. Label the stains and package in a paper envelope. Advantages: dilution and contamination potential, minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium. Negative control is readily collected, requires little storage space, fairly easy technique to perform. Disadvantages: investigator must decide which stains to collect.
Okay, let me fast forward this a little bit because he just see it was almost over anyways. But we're gonna get to the final video and then we're gonna look at the photos individually. Okay, so here we go. Hope y'all hang in there. I know it's been kind of long and lengthy, but it's quite informative. So you can't dispel the fact of knowledge.
On top of it. So now we're looking at a passive drip pattern. This could be the victim's blood. This could be the suspect's blood. We won't know until we sample it and send it off for analysis. What we can interpret from this could be movement. So if this trail of blood is leading away from the scene, we would see those tails going in a direction of travel. Now we're looking at a white pattern. We have a pre-existing stain that something came in contact and moved through it. So we could see from our discussion earlier of feathering that the directionality is coming towards me. Something is passively dripping blood. That could be a weapon, that could be a victim, that could be our suspect, and then something later on comes through it. That could be someone trying to clean up the stain. This could also be that maybe someone was dragged through this or there was some sort of movement through that stain. So that was a white pattern. Now we have a swipe pattern. Blood is on something here, and we could see, again, that same feathering going in a direction of travel. We have a transfer pattern with movement, which is a swipe pattern. There's blood on something, and then we're just moving that in a direction. Usually when it's a white pattern, we could see those original stains. So they're drying, and then someone tries to wipe them off with a cloth. Now we're looking at a cast-off pattern. So this is a subcategory of spatter. That's a projection mechanism. So blood is on an object, and we're moving that object in space. That could be someone's hand, that could be a pipe, that could be a bat, that could be a knife. And as that object moves, blood will be flung off it, and we have these very distinct linear patterns or curvilinear patterns. At a crime scene, if we see these cast-off patterns, they can go up the walls, they can go across the floor, and even onto the ceiling. So we're looking at a spatter pattern, but we have a normally continuous drops of blood that are being interrupted or blocked by something. And that gives us a pattern, what's called the void. Sometimes we have crime scenes where there's something important that would be in that pool or in that pattern or that spatter pattern, and it's been removed. So it could be someone's bag or a cell phone, their wallet.
Okay, as you just saw there, he talked about this being the void pattern. So what we were talking about as far as the 90-degree droplets earlier, why there was an interruption in some of those and they weren't smeared, then he just discussed it right there. So whatever was interrupting the droplets went on whatever was in this area. So that's why there's no blood right there, and it's all the way around. You think that that would be common knowledge, but for some people, you have to show them a little diagram in order for them to understand it.
Pattern, and it's been removed. So it could be someone's bag or a cell phone, their wallet. I had a crime scene where someone was bludgeoned, and adjacent to his head was the complete absence of blood spatter. Looking to the left of him, there was a spatter pattern. It didn't line up. What we determined was that the curtains inside of the hotel room were open at the time of the crime and then closed later on. We've gone over how these patterns are created, our different categories of patterns, and what we can interpret from these patterns at a crime scene. This is not a simple process. This stuff takes time, training, and experience. And beyond that, there's no absolutes with any of this. There's no one specific.
Scraping bloodstains into a paper packet. Use a clean, sharp instrument to scrape the bloodstain into a paper packet. The packet can be labeled and placed in a paper envelope. Do not use a plastic container in place of a paper packet, because the static charge from the plastic will cause the blood flakes to disperse and stick to the sides of the container. This technique can be combined with the tape lift method by scraping the stain near the tape's sticky side. The static charge will cause the flakes to stick to the tape. The tape can then be placed on vinyl acetate. Advantages: dilution and contamination potential minimized by eliminating the use of water as the collection medium, requires little storage space. Disadvantages: investigator must decide which stains to collect. When scraped, bloodstains tend to break into small, very hard to handle flakes. The flakes have a tendency to be easily lost during the scraping process, except when used in combination with the tape lift. Some surfaces are not easily scraped. Absorbing stains onto moistened 1/2 long threads. Use only distilled or deionized water to moisten clean, 1/2 long, number 8, white cotton threads. Do not handle the threads with bare hands. Place thread on bloodstain with a pair of clean forceps or a clean cotton swab. Roll the thread on the bloodstain so the stain is absorbed onto the thread. Repeat until a minimum of 4 threads are collected. Place the threads, and swabs if used, in a secure area and allow them to air dry. When air dried, package into a paper packet and place in an envelope. For transportation purposes and to prevent cross-contamination, the threads may be placed in a plastic container for no more than 2 hours. Once in a secure location, the threads must be removed from the plastic and allowed to air dry. They may then be...
So as you're hearing all these protocols, there's a reason that, and this just talks about wet blood and stuff like that. Like I said, if you want this video, I will put the link in the chat. There's really, I mean, it's just going through protocol. And one thing that you must remember whenever you're watching true crime on here, or you're hearing about a case, or you're hearing about blood and all this other stuff, is there's a protocol for everything. There's a protocol when first responders get there. There's a protocol, tag and bag, chain of custody, incident report. There's all these things that go along with the identification of evidence. Without these things, then people do have the tendency to not necessarily plant or frame someone, but they have the tendency to cross contaminate or not even or even miss evidence if they're not doing the protocol as they should. Which human error is human error. and nobody is perfect when it comes to this stuff.
Investigator must decide which stains and controls to collect. Investigator must have direct interaction with bloodstain.
Thank you so much for spending time with me, 12 Gage, and my channel 12 Gage Investigative. I did this to show the differences in educational value of blood and how it pertains to a crime scene. No disrespect meant to any of the families or victims whatsoever. Let's all continue to hold the families and victims in our hearts. Thank you. Be safe and watch your six.
Okay, so thank you for hanging in there for that long video. Now we're gonna go and look at the actual photos without the video format. So here is, thank you so much for that, Nina. Thank you. Like we were talking about earlier, since we just learned about the blood and how it's defined in a lot of different ways, you can see a lot of what was just demonstrated right here. Look, this even looks like potentially somebody could have been grasping at this to get up. I mean, it isn't really clear, but there's a lot of blood on this nightstand. There's a lot of pool of blood right here, obviously soaked into the carpet. Or no, this isn't carpet, my bad. This is the wooden floor, my bad. So there's, like what we saw, when blood is unable to saturate into an object, it sits there and pulls on top of it. I mean, this looks like a handprint right here. I mean, if you're trying to stand up, and I'm not trying to be morbid here, and I'm not trying to be one of those creators that is benefiting off the death of 4 kids. I just want to show you guys exactly what we just learned. You know what I mean? And it's evident in everything that you see here. This is another area where they were talking about the blood saturating into the object. So if there was blood here, then it's going to soak into the object. And like I told Nina earlier, this is an indention. So it tells you that the person is still in the bed. And there's a lot of blurred out right here. But that nightstand is just terrible. That is just a terrible sight to witness. There's also blood spatter on the little book on the wall. going down the wall. See how that blood is, and there's not even anybody right there, and the blood is going down the wall. I mean, just terrible. Just terrible. Look at that. But that's not enough blood for people. I don't know what their fascination with blood is, but that's not enough blood for people for them to actually see that this was a very, very bloody crime scene. You know? And Nina sent me this earlier. So she was talking about it being in a circular form. Um, as you can tell, I don't know if she drew the circle around it because I don't think it was drawn in the floor. Nina, you're in chat. Can you talk about the circle? Because as you can tell, also there's a void where there might have been a shoe right here or somebody standing here and the blood was dropping on their feet. You know? Um, that's just terrible. And obviously these are Maddie's Doc Martens. And here's that photo again. Of course we can zoom in. That really doesn't tell us much. But I'm with y'all as far as that being aloe. Who said that? Unravel? I'm with you on that. Because that's exactly what that looks like when you zoom in on that. And that is a packet of some kind of sauce. I don't know what's kind of blurred out there, but there's the $2 bill that they were talking about. And I can't really see the signature on that, but it's blurred out. And this does look like a calculator. Yeah, this is definitely Taco Bell. I've eaten enough to know the bags. ID or credit card? I would say it was an ID because it looks. You see the barcode right here? Most IDs, whenever the police pull you over, they either swipe it or they do the barcode. And but I could be wrong. I mean, that could either be one or the other. You're right. Um, so see right here, there is blood. This isn't um blurred out. You can see the blood on the chair. I could see why they would say that you could see what looks like somebody sat in a chair. I could see why they would say that. You could look at the pattern of the blood and how the consistency, and the thicker the blood is, the more pressure I would believe that was placed upon that. Yeah, an ID card or a driver's license or something of that sort. Um, what do y'all think about that chair? Do you believe that, you know, yeah, there's blood on that chair, and this is unblurred out, so you can see the outline of somebody potentially sitting in that chair. And it could have been Xana for all we know. She could have raised herself up enough to sit in a chair and was bleeding on this other stuff. And then he came in and finished her off, and that's when you heard the thud. We don't know that nobody sat on there, though, Nina. I mean, it could have been Xana that sat in the chair. Because think about it like this: if you're fighting for your life and you're trying to save yourself, you're not going to be wanting to lay on the floor bleeding. In my perspective, I would say that I'd be wanting to get up and sit up to try to stop the bleeding somehow. And, you know, as you're sitting there, it's going to get all over that bag in that Coors Light box. But I could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But that is, I would say, that is definitely blood on that bag. I don't know what that is right there, but that could be a condom wrapper. I mean, I don't know. Let's go on to the next one. Of course, she said that this is Maddie's room. So you're telling me that's not enough blood for you? Look at all that. All over the wall. It looks like the person was moving and he was missing. This looks like the tip of the knife. Like the person was moving around, and as he was trying to hold them, he was either scraping the wall, or as he was trying to stab them, he was missing. I mean, like they said, there was more than 50 something wounds, right? I don't get squeamish when it comes to blood, but this just makes my stomach turn, knowing what I know happened in this bed. So this bed, it doesn't look like this bed had a headboard. It was just one of those flat kind of beds. God, that just makes me sad. And as you can tell, like they said in that video, look at the trail of the blood as it's going down. So that had to be a fatal shot right here against this wall. Because the void of this blood is right here. And everything else is around it. Like he said in that one, I'm sorry that keeps coming up, but as you can see on that wall, there's an absence of blood above those marks. Everything is going downward. And that's what he was explaining, in my opinion. Um, what what is what is going on this wall? Wow. That's not enough blood for people. People say, "Well, that looks fake to me. That looks fake for me to me." Yeah, it looks like a curvature. I thought the same thing. It's like she's still in the bed, but they moved her, or she's under the blanket right here. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. Could be a pillow. Could just be how the blanket is laying. You said that looks like her hair right there? That little piece sticking out? Good catch. That does look like her hair. You're right, because that is a tight curvature. Like there's something underneath there. You're right. That does look like her hair. Yeah, you're right. Wow. Yeah, I think that's Kaylee because that does look like her hair right here where my mouse pointer is. So they probably threw the blanket on her head on her body to cover her up and took the photo. That is sad, bro. Here's the picture that I showed earlier. Hold on. And I wasn't certain whose closet this was. Somebody said they thought that it was Xana and Ethan's closet. What do y'all think? What square blur? Rondi says she thinks it's Xana's. Could be. Could be. Yeah, that's that table right there. Because there's that black book and all along right there. And if that's where she's at, then that makes a lot of sense that she either hit this on the way down and that was her final resting place. Because there's no bookcase, there's nothing on this side that would have made a thud against that far wall that would have been that loud. You know, I heard somewhere on TikTok. I watch a lot of TikTok too. So whenever I'm discussing hearing things and seeing things, it's not necessarily all on YouTube. You know, it's all over the place. Facebook, it's all over. Where people talk a lot about this case. And this one creator was saying that this was blood, a pool of blood right here. I don't believe that. I believe that this is the rug. This maybe could be blood. I don't know. But I know definitely this, you can see the outline. You might not be able to see it on your end, but you can see like the braided part of the rug. And this could be like a pillow or something. But that is definitely that nightstand that we showed at the very beginning. Because there's that black book and the drawers kind of open, like, you know, when you hit it, it would pop that door open. It's only, I mean, it's only feasible that that would happen. I thought that there might have been some kind of blood on this wall as he rounded it, because they were spending a lot of time investigating this area. See, and people were saying there's a knife right there. You see that knife? I can't get closer than that, but you see that knife? That is supposedly the knife that Ethan picked up when he went into the kitchen and got the knife, and then he set it on the table. It is sad. That's why it upsets me when I hear all the BS that people have to say about these kids. and this crime scene. How they make up so much stuff that could not even be humanly possible. That's why it's so personal at times for me because people were saying, "Oh yeah, that's the knife that they killed him with. That's the second weapon." No, it's not. That's the second weapon that Steve was talking about. Um, don't you think they dusted for prints on that knife? Don't you think that they swabbed that knife? Yeah, I sent you the link. I can't send it in the email because I'm using the email right now. So that's why I get so, I guess, passionate about it because you get tired of the bullshit. You know, you get tired of the misinformation where you hear there's no way that this could have happened because this I know this for a fact. I used to do this or I used to do that. Well, that doesn't make you an expert. Nobody knows what really went on in that house but those 4 people that died and the 2 that lived, if that makes sense. Let me stop sharing while I load this one up. Does that make sense? And I'm not trying to be an ass right now. I'm really not. But that's the truth of the matter is nobody knows what went on in that house but the people that perished and the people that lived and the perpetrator.
Coworker drives to the back parking lot away from the other.
Okay, I'm not going to do that one because that one will get me copyrighted, I know. Not that I care anymore, but let me see the other email. Okay, there you are.
Yay, I'm back for a minute.
But you get what I'm saying? I mean, that's what makes me.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand that.
I mean, that's what gets under my skin is all the all the foolishness that's said about these people. Like honestly, um, yeah, I didn't get to get that video that you sent me of the bright light. You'll have to send it some other way
Okay, I'll
because
send it an email and we'll do it. We'll do it over the weekend.
well, if you can send it over the email, see, I tried to forward it to myself and it said it's just too big. The one that I got was the rendition of the car going
Oh no,
around the house.
the one that's with the that unravel, it would be a YouTube link.
Well, email me that link right quick.
Okay, hang on.
Let me take off these people's names so I don't dock them. Yeah, send me the link and I'll show it. Yeah, I meant Hunter. My bad. Thank you. Thank you for that, JB. Thank you. I always say that. Always when I'm talking about Ethan, I always mean Hunt. When I'm talking about Ethan, and then I go to Hunter, I always call him Ethan. I don't know. I don't know why, but thank you for that. You're so right. You're so right. Thank you for being here, by the way. Thank you all for being here. Whichever chat you're in, thank you so much for being here. Like we said earlier, there's no competition. We're sharing a lot of stuff together and we enjoy presenting together as well. Make sure you send it to my email, not to any other. Any other stuff? So, how have you guys enjoyed the presentation tonight? Let me know in the chat if you've enjoyed what we presented tonight. Some of the discussions.
Hey, I think I fixed the echo.
Okay, here it is. Is it in the video? Is she gonna be okay with me showing this, or is she gonna strike me?
Oh yeah, remember she was in the chat a little bit ago, and she
Okay.
actually thanked us for showing it.
Okay, just making sure.
Oh yeah. Now down at the bottom right corner, you'll see a red bird. It's a square and it's got a red bird in it. That's going to be the first place that you look for it. And she'll have an arrow.
Right here. Okay, it's gonna be 1:21, so we'll probably play it a couple times.
Yeah.
Let me take the chat box.
And I mean, everybody really look at it because I have no clue. But I'm going to tell you, there's some noises going on, and I'm like, is that a transformer? Yeah, you can hear the noises.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, she knows. She actually said thank you.
Do you have a timestamp? Because I'm like trying hard not to blink. Okay, I saw that one. Okay, I saw one. I didn't see the other one. That one is like right here and it's on this corner. That was at 4:15. So let's slow it down. Did I speed it up? Hold on. Okay, there it was. There it is, right there. There's that one. So I see that one. I didn't see the first one. Maybe I blinked. But there's that one. I paused it exactly where it is. Could that be the camera light coming on due to movement? Do they have a motion light outside? Anywhere around there? I'm talking to myself because she's not in here. What do y'all think that is? The time on the second one is 4:15:47. So if there was an outside light, that looks like an outside motion light coming on. That's why I was asking if there's one anywhere around that house. Firefly says over artifact. Yes, he's in the house. Because at 17, that's where the thud happens. So he's in the house. So if this flash is right here. Let me play it again. See, it looks like a light coming on. Could it have been a light from their bedroom in this house coming on and then turning off? Could there have been a light turning on and off in this house? Isn't this where Hunter lives? They said that he locked the door. I know. I know that. But just because she said that she saw a flash, that would have been a big ass flash to be coming around the corner and captured by the camera. Let me see where the first one is. You said it's up here. I'm not being argumentative. I'm really not. I'm just trying to give alternative theories. This freaking mouse is pissing me off. Okay, I heard that time. Wow, that was loud. Did you hear that noise? And also, do you think there might have been a malfunction in the camera? Like that sounds like an electric, like when you have a like a surge of electricity or something, or maybe the Wi-Fi is messed. I don't know what that is. I it is sound like interference with the camera of some sort. Kind of like that, yeah, a bug zapper possibly. But it's loud. Can y'all hear me now? God, I'm having a hell of a time tonight with this stuff. For real. I was saying, as far as the light source, um, you know, I don't I don't really think it's anything of significance, but you know, what do y'all really do you put much stock into what Bethany said? I mean, she at the least talked about person in the PCA and all of these documents. I mean, her role in all this is very limited. So the fact that she said she may have saw a light source under her door, heard firecrackers, I mean, honestly, I don't put any stock in any of that. I really don't. I don't find how that's any relevance to the crime. But once again, I could be wrong, you know? But once again, this is our second 3-hour live of the day. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary, the comments in the chat, enjoyed the videos, the photos, and the 2 or 3 live that we've done the last couple of days. They've been very interesting. Um, I don't really, I mean, honestly, unless something really significant comes out this weekend, I really don't think I'm going to go live tomorrow or the next day because there's nothing really that I can see that I want to talk about for 3 more hours. And I'm not trying to be selfish, but I do want to get some rest this weekend. It's been a long week. Um, so I hope you guys understand that, and I hope you enjoyed the content. Nina, you can pick up the pace. You can go live tomorrow or whenever tonight if you want to. See, I'm already messing up. I'm covering up my face even before I log off here. So you guys check out Nina's fundraising, and you're doing it for a good cause. And y'all try to donate or spread the word if you can, because even if you can't donate, spreading the word for the good cause would get her kennels up and running. So you guys have a wonderful night. Be safe and watch your six, okay? Take care of each other. And if you're in my Discord, then I'll see you in Discord around this weekend, I'm sure, but I'm not going to do any lives. All right? Maestro, cue that music.